Okay, guys, you should be able to hear me perfectly clear right now. And I'm glad that you're here because you're really going to enjoy this. Um, I will, what I'll do is, we're going to have, for some of you, or maybe all of you, this is going to be a very unusual lecture. Um, uh, because in regular classes, you will just get some sort of a formatting test from me, and you will just simply, take a piece of paper and a pen or whatever, and then you would be able to. Time out for just a second. I'm just having just a little bit of a problem here. Okay, I think I'm okay. I'm back. Okay. So, if you were, what I was saying basically is, if you just happen to be in a regular class, then here's the test. You get your pencil or a pen, and then you start elaborating your thoughts based on to what we were, based on what the questions that I asked you, and then you would argue your points or identify or find out or check your multiple choice answer. Why not? In this particular test, it's very important that you type some of your questions. That's first and foremost. Okay. As you, what's going to happen is that I'm just going to show you the test. Okay. I'm going to show you the test. This test, I'm also going to be sending. I'm going to be sending the a test, and then you're going to have some time to complete it. And then I will give you a limitation as to when it has to be done. You will have till tomorrow to finish it. Okay, so you need to basically come up with, again, argumentative thoughts about it, and you have to type this on. You have to type your answers. You have to type briefly your answers, and you have to turn it in. Okay. So basically, those are your directions. So again, okay, you're going to have a limited time, and then we're going to talk about that time later on today. Okay. So the first thing that you have to do is, it's important that as you look at these questions or as you look at these terms, it's important that you discuss them. Okay, you're able to just type stuff there in the space provided. Okay, and be able to produce some sort of argumentative ideas about it, so that when you actually do the test, and then you decided how you're going to work on this test and what kind of ideas you're going to put on this test, you're pretty much sure of what you're doing, and you're going to be there on your way. Okay? So I'm going to do one last check. Okay, this is last check. Okay, and make sure that you are able to listen. Okay, because for the most part, if you're listening, okay, and you're fine right now with the listening, okay, then it basically means that you're going to be able to type ideas. And it's important because you're probably going to go to the archives a little bit later on, okay? And then you're going to probably draw some of your concerns and ideas from there to perhaps come up with better arguments. So I'm gonna be rude and abrasive right now by writing this word, okay? Okay, that's pretty gross, and I know that you guys are thinking, what is this guy thinking about, man? I hate when somebody writes that, and it's true. That is why I apologized about this, and I said, okay, identify and argue. This is very important, okay? Because when I mean identify, it means identify according to lectures and chapter. Okay, this is very important. Okay, because you might find you might look at one term in there that you already know what it means. For example, one of the terms that you need to identify and argue is this. Okay, all right. So here is the wrong answer. There's the wrong answer. Because this has nothing to do with Chapter 3 or California Lost. Okay? That's a typical okay? And to top it off, in this type of an answer, we don't even have an argument, so I don't know what that means. So the word briefly is something that I'm going to leave it up to you because that's very important first and foremost. What does brief mean? Does it mean maybe 4 sentences? Does it mean a very short answer? And the answer is yes. It means a short answer, and it means some sort of an argument that you may develop, okay? You don't want to get all gung-ho on this and think that every one of these questions means that you have to write 20 pages. Okay, so do be brief. Okay, that's very important. Okay, so I know that right now you don't have much questions because of course you don't see what's before you. Okay, but these are basically the recommendations I have, so you can feel very much at ease on this. And we're not going to be spending a whole lot of time really thinking about what every one of these terms are, but I'm going to be addressing in general what Dustin, Maricel, Rosa, and Shasa have to say in terms of argument, because I am grading you in your argument. Okay, so argument is big. Okay, and an argument again means what your take is, what this has cost. Okay, you need to ask yourselves as to why, what happened, what was the result for future generations. Okay, now think about this, what I'm just saying. Why? Okay, all right, what was the result for future generations? What was a result for me? Okay, how Mexicans survived. Okay, these are the questions that you have to really think about, a little bit more profoundly. Um, all right. Now, the other thing that you have to also think about it here, which is very important, is U.S. citizenship. Granted to Mexicans by the Hidalgo Treaty, where they equal. Okay, now when you're talking about equal, you're talking about equality and equality by the 14th Amendment. Okay, this is very important because the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution addresses citizenship, and all citizens are equal under the law. So you need to really look at that very carefully, because what you're seeing in California, what you read in California, what we discussed in California, is in fact things that are gruesome violations of the amendment. Okay, so these are the kind of things that you have to look at that. And how do you see this in today's society? Okay, this is another good point of interest here. Okay, did it stop? Okay, do we have situations in the past 10 years in which you see these reflections of the past? And I think that that's very important, because if you do a little research, you're going to be able to compare and contrast. Which is very good. Which is very good for arguments. Okay, so let's just say that one of the questions is going to be talking about Juanita, which is what was mentioned in the lectures last week. Okay, do we still do that in California courts? Do we find people guilty when we know that they're not? And what do we do when these people are not guilty after, perhaps keeping them in death row for 20 years? Okay, how do you say to them, "I'm sorry"? Okay, which means let's make sure that the previous archive uh, So okay, so and the other thing that we need to do is, of course, we want to make sure that we obtain, that we get to the previous archive to obtain lecture information about Chapter 3. And that lecture was last week, okay? So that's one of the things that you have to remember here, because, if you're thinking, dude, I know this guy has mentioned some stuff. We did watch something very cool, which was Acuna. Video in which he's talking exactly with some of the facts that occurred in California in 1860s, okay? And this is happening in the United States today, 2 years ago. I mean, I think that would really make me a very happy professor if you just pay attention to that, because now you're telling me, oh, here's one student who really thought that maybe some of the stuff that Acuna says, it's just like living in the 1800s, for God's sake. And then you've mentioned that because you've identified one of the terms, and you made the analogy, and you made the comparison and a contrast, and now you're getting, all kinds of points because of that, okay? So that's very important again. Identifying these terms takes very little, okay? There's no reason why you should be writing 20 paragraphs about identification of one term, okay? It takes very little. Think how you're going to identify this so that your professor knows that you're identifying these terms of Chapter 3, okay? California Lost. You're identifying this according to Chapter 3, okay? Remember that terrible example that I gave you, a church, a place for spiritual findings with God. That's not a church, okay? Why? Because that has nothing to do with Chapter 3, okay? You would actually, probably mention a couple of things about the church's role, and we already know we're talking about this period. You don't have to get into wasting time giving information about something that we already know. Okay? Do not start your sentences or your identification with things like, in 1849 in California, gold was discovered, and that changes the. We don't need that, because you're not doing any of that. Okay. So I would imagine that that we are a little bit ready for action here. So let me ask you: do you have any questions? I would imagine that you're probably going to have them when you see the test. But if you have any questions right now before we start, anybody? Okay. So remember. Answers are to be typed. Okay. The test is going to be right now, Sasha, but you will have, let me just explaining how it's going to go, okay? Answers are to be typed, and then need to be turned into turnitin.com. Okay, so answers are to be typed, and then need to be turned in to turnitin.com. The thing about tonight is that tonight you're going to be able to get very clear ideas to what you want to talk about every one of these terms. So that's the benefit of being in the lecture tonight, and you can come back later, and maybe later you can revisit some of your stuff and how you're going to manufacture that. At the same time, you can, perhaps write me and shoot me an email before you turn stuff in, and then, if you have any particular concerns. But I think you're going to do fine, and you're going to do fine because you're going to be seeing right now some of the comments on every one of the questions that you're going to see. Okay, do not um, do not. I'll address your concern in a second, Maricel. I've seen it, but let me just make sure that I have my train of thought here. I want to finish my train of thought. Do not be thinking that, oh my God, this is overwhelming. Should I have a second computer in hand? Because this guy wants you to type my answers and send it in. You are going to have time to send the test in, okay? And after the lecture today, I am going to send that test to you via email, okay? I'm going to send an announcement, and then I'm going to also give you the time in which this test is due. So you're going to have about a day to finish this test. It's probably going to be due on Wednesday at noon sometime, okay? So, so you're going to be able to just collectively try to get all your ideas in hand and then be able to do that, okay? I'm also going to send in that announcement exactly when and what needs to be completed. But I think that by, by the mere fact that you guys are here tonight, I think that you guys are going to enjoy a little bit more easiness, and I think you're going to relax a little bit. Absolutely, Maricel, by the way, and I didn't forget you, the answer is that is a very good argument, okay? Because you are already thinking church. The church separated the poor Mexicans from others. Of course, that's okay to put down. It's more than okay, because you're already saying, now the only thing that you need to probably address is like, well, what do you mean, the poor from the rich? Who were the rich? And why did the church sided with this rich instead of all the poor? And that's actually what was discussed last week, if you remember. So you have a great memory, because I think you're really serving, I think you're really helping the rest of the class on this, okay? Because if you were last week, which you were, okay, you're already thinking, well, that's one, that's one thing. Or you may want to say, why would the church help the rich? And that's also a very good answer, okay? Because if you just simply find out why the church helped the rich, automatically that gives you your comparative, your contrast, your argument, and then the reason why you think the church actually sided with the rich. And that is all over the chapter, okay? Or it's all over that answer. So that's a very good take. So the whole idea is to be able to, for you to ask questions, and then every one of the questions that you ask, do not ask, what are you talking about, or is this in the book, or something like that. No, what we need to do is we need to, I need you to pointedly say, is this good? And I think that Maricel gave us a very, very good example right now in which she said, well, can I put this down? But the answer is yes. Yes, and not only you can put that down, but that's also going to get you a very good grade on that answer. Okay, so so that and I gave you the reasons as to why. So I think that if you look at that question that Maricel brought to all of us, and you hear my answer again in the archives, okay, I think that you're going to do quite well. I think that you're going to do quite well, okay? All right. So now give me a couple of minutes, and all of a sudden you're going to see this test right before you. And obviously any notes that you want to take about your arguments and how, you're more than welcome to. Okay? Every one of these terms is in the chapter. If you read the chapter, you're going to be doing very good. If you did not read the chapter, then you're going to sweat, because what I'm asking you is like, well, oh my God, what is this? Okay, and tonight we're not defining this, we're not identifying this according to the chapter, but you want to make sure that you want to get your arguments in place, because that's what's going to get you ahead of the game. So I'm going to pretty much ignore if you ask me a question like, what's church, okay? Because that clearly tells me you did not read the chapter. And I'm not going to define the word church for you. You know, you're just going to have to do the reading and find out what is that term. And once again, you know, you can just simply say the church has to do with missions and Catholic Church, done, period, and then start your take a la Maricel. Okay? All right. So give me 2 seconds here. You probably are able to see one document right now. I need a yes. Okay, hang on for a second, please. Can you see anything in on your okay, can you see the exam? Anybody? Hello? Okay. Hello. Okay. Okay, very good. Okay, so this is what I'm going to be sending you later today. Okay, and so let's take it from the top. First of all, as I explained to you today, here we need to identify and argue briefly about the following terms. And the first one says contrast the will with that of New Mexico. Do you have any questions? And remember, we're going to go very fast on this. So it's very important that if you do, okay, your questions are addressing a little bit more towards what your argument is going to be. Okay? If you say, for example, to me right now, what's a wheel? Okay, is that my car? I'm not going to answer that. Okay? All right? So here we go. Number 1, questions. Okay. Not questions, but go ahead and add your stuff in there, whatever you need to say, okay? That's how we're going to do it, because I want to see if I can just, if we can just actually do something with this. Okay? If we don't have it, if we don't have that much more comments in there, okay, then we're going to go to number 2. Okay? Okay? That's right. Okay? One of the things that you could say here is gold rush, because certainly there was no gold rush in New Mexico. That's a very good one. Okay? That's going to change things around. Okay? And so there you go. Okay? So that's number 1. Okay? Also, you got to think about things, how fast things went, what happened in California when gold was discovered. Okay? And you got to remember, because of economics, things are going to change. Things are going to get very differently, very quick. From a very rancher, agricultural, Zorro, Sergeant Garcia, easy life, etc., etc. Okay, things become the pits. Okay, California industrializes very fast. Very good. What's number 2? Happiest land in the world. Talk to me, Dustin. Somebody. Okay. That sounds like the happiest place, you know, the happiest place the happiest city in the USA, Disneyland. Oh, isn't that cute? Okay. Why is this the happiest land in the world? What are we talking about? True. Okay. Okay. Exactly. I agree with that, Maricel, again. And yeah, thank you, Dustin, because you're talking about California. Well, what are you going to argue about this? I mean, you know, oh, California is really cool. I agree. Yeah, right. That's F. Okay. So what are you going to say about this? This is pretty cool. Okay. Thank you very much. I like your comments so far. Okay. There's a whole thing to read right in the beginning of the chapter, in which there's this myth. Okay. And there it is. Because you're good today, I'm just going to help you out a little bit. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. There we go. We got a myth in there. Okay. We got a myth in there. Okay. All right. Okay. So, and then you can argue. Well, why don't you ask? You know, why don't you ask the Californians that were losing their land, or why don't you ask about all this brutal violence around, and of course you can mention a few things. Or how about the mystery and the deceiving of mining? You know, that doesn't look happy to me. The minute that you cite some very good examples about not so happy, you're doing fine. Okay, number 3. Okay, remember, address to the chapter. Okay, and then make your contrast to the chapter. After you ID the stuff, then you just go on and talk. Okay, number 3. You knew this was going to be in the test. Okay? Do not just tell me who they were. We already know who they were. But you need to talk about it. You need to say why these people, what you know, you could say who were them and what was their problem. Okay? What was the issues? Okay? Why they were so different. Okay? And you got to think about it, because yeah, and then you have to start comparing them. Okay, take it from last week's lecture. That's a very good example, because now you need to say why, and you need to start talking a little bit more about it. Lots of things about the Californians. Lots of things about California. That's a good definition right there, Dustin. Okay. Now what are you going to say about it? Because now you need to say something in terms of were they a detriment for California? Were they good? Were they bad? Or what's going on with these guys? Okay, so once we know who they are, okay, perhaps your roots, if you were a Californian all your life, okay, now why? Now, so what about him? Okay, what about him? Okay, right? Number 4. Okay, so we go for number 4, and number 4 is women. What's up with number 4? Okay, very important. You can draw comparisons from women then and women now. Okay, and I think you're really going to be looking at some really cool stuff on that. Okay, because you're going to find it very fast, but women are very important in this chapter. Okay, extremely important. Okay, yes, but what else? Okay, you have both here, Maricel. You have both. You have, you could argue about the women and when they were married off and marrying white, and or you can also look at number 15, Modesta Avila. You can look at Juanita. Okay, and you can make very good comparisons and contrasts. Okay, so okay. What about the ones that were not so lucky, or, and I'm going to say this again, number 15, okay, because you're really, you guys are hitting the chord. But if you're going to be thinking about what Sasha's saying, or what Maricel is saying, or what Dustin's saying, I'm gonna point out to question number 15. Okay, that is a very cool thing, and I'm not gonna tell you much about it because I'm not gonna identify it. That's your job, but that goes very well with a comparison and a contrast to what a lot of you are talking about, that they could own land. But what happened? Okay. Remember, it's not only telling me what that they could own land, but what else are you going to tell me about that? Okay. Was it easy? Was it worse? Was it easy now? Is it easy for you now versus then? Okay. So again, cholos. What is? And we go on. Number 5. That's true, Maricel. Thank you very much for IDing these guys. But now you need to start talking about it. Okay? Yeah, you're saying poor Mexicans, but why not call Mexicanos pobres? I mean, why do we call them cholos? Who gave them that name in the first place? Okay? And what's going on? Okay? So now that you're looking about LA, and then you already know that term is all over the place in LA, talk to me. Okay. Can you hear me now? I'm sure you can. Yes. Okay. All right. Sorry, I don't know what happens. Sometimes it happens, and sometimes something breaks down. Okay. Back to, can you perhaps see the test? I don't know if you can. No? Okay. I thought so. Give me 5 minutes, or not 5 minutes. All right. I'm sure you can. We okay now? We should be. Okay, so if you can still see this, because I know you can, okay. Um, um, okay, thank you very much. I got you back. Okay, sometimes it'll happen, but the program is so good that it just picks up. Sometimes it sort of shuts down and everybody disappears and just picks it up again almost automatically. So I'm really happy that this happened, so I know, so you're not panicking, figuring out whatever happened to me and if I decided to abandon you. Okay, let's continue on with this. Okay, so we left it at Cholos. Okay, very good ideas, a very good climate of understanding so far. What's the bear flag? Okay, and the bear flag have pretty much have to do with this guy. And that's the whole reason why it's there. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to put number 6. We are on number 6 right now, okay? That was number 6, and it has to do with this guy, okay? Number 6, oops, number 6 has to do with this guy. And we've mentioned that guy all over the place, okay? All right, so so that's what you need to, so now I see that some of you are getting some ideas there, okay? What can you say to get some good credit on the bear flag? Okay, there's a whole section, there's a whole thing about it, but now how do I develop my ideas so that I can really do good on this? Okay, all right. And again, it has to do now with the haves and have-nots. It has to do with violence. It has to do with war. Okay, all right. And it has to do with expansion and manifest destiny and all that. Well, yeah, but you need to be a little bit more specific on that. I don't know what Dustin is typing right now, but you got to be a little bit more specific about that. Okay, it has to do with this guy. Okay. Yes, very good, Dustin. That's what it is. Because Polk tried to claim more land by sending people to take over by force. Hello? That's the right answer on that one, okay? And his quest. Of course. Okay, so now Maricel, I think you know. Okay, because now you need to figure this out and figure, well, what was, well, now you need to start talking about what's the bear flag in the first place, okay? So so you got it, okay? Now it's just a matter of Dustin already has a good argument in there, okay? He's ever dreaming of expansionism, okay? All right? Now maybe we're all happy and we live in California and we think that this is a great state, but the whole idea of you know, the state being forged by bad karma. I mean, this is what it was, okay? All right, good. Um, 7, number 7 has to do with taxes, okay? Okay, all right. So what are you going to say about taxes? Oh, all right. I don't like the IRS. Well, it has nothing to do with this question, okay? And with archives last week, okay, this gives you lots of info on here, okay? What's going on with this? All right. So you need to start thinking about this, how you're going to handle this one, and I think you're going to do a very good job on this if you're thinking about taxation here, okay? because there's lots of things that have to do with taxes. You can talk about taxes, the foreign taxes, the minors' taxes. What were these taxes going around in California for? What's this have to do with poor Mexicans? Okay, all right. So you might as well tax. You're going to tax everybody that's becoming rich, right? Poll taxes, but what about California? What about Cali? Okay, poll taxes was nasty in Mexico, but no poll taxes in California. Yes, poll taxes in California. What about what's taxes in California? You may compare and contrast poll and minor. Okay. Because if you start contrasting those, you're going to be thinking about it. Well, it does have the same effect. At the end of the day, you're collecting money unfairly, and you're preventing people from do the job. Okay. All right. Okay. Number 8. What's number 8? And California Lost is packed with this. Not only packed with this, but do we have vigilantes today? Okay. So that's not a very difficult question to address, right? Number 9 is Juanita, okay? And Juanita, again, if you look at the archives last week, you would automatically know who Juanita is. But what is the meaning of this? Okay. That's true, Sasha. Citizens band together to fight crime. Yeah, right. Okay. However, I mean, that's a very good way to look at it, but what do you mean, Sasha? What do you mean? Because you need to now you need to come up with some sort of an argumentative point in which you probably need to tell us why do we have the creation of of vigilantism then and now, and what did these vigilantes do? So that's very important. That's right. That's Juanita. I agree with that. But now you need to say a few more things, right? Are you, Dustin? Are you talking about vigilantes? The answer would be no, because the vigilantes were not outlaws that were fighting for their rights. That is actually more with Murrieta and Vasquez. That's question number 12. Okay, and we're going to look at that. Okay, number 10. Let's keep thinking to what I said, Dustin. Okay, number 10. Vigilantes. You have to go back in there and take a look at that. That's important. Okay. Actually, number 8 and number 11 are similar. Okay, we're gonna get into that in a second. Okay, that's a good definition. But in order to get But in order to get higher credit, Maricel, you need to tell me what you think about this in the first place. And I think that you can really put at least 2 sentences together there, because the whole unjust situation in there. Okay. Now, number 10, el clamor público. That's another question in which we that's another concern, not concern, but that's another issue that I brought out last weekend, or last week, in which I told you, think about this for a minute. El clamor público has to do with this guy, okay? And what do you think about el clamor público? Okay, you already know what it was, some sort of a publication, but what were these guys doing? Okay. Well, whatever that might be with El Clamor. El Clamor was a newspaper. So what about it? What kind of a newspaper? Was it good? Was it bad? Was it important? I mean, what was it? Having publications during heavy times might be a little bit of a detriment, but you need to have a little bit more of a take on that. Well, true, but now what? Why? What's the job of a reporter? What's the job of our journalism? And do we have things like that nowadays? And the answer is yes. In fact, there was one famous journalist from Chicano, a Chicano journalist who died during the LA riots of the 70s. Okay, so you may want to draw some comparisons in there with Salazar. Okay, all right. So if you kind of figure out who Salazar was, you're going to discover some very good and important aspects to what it means to be a journalist during heavy times. Exactly, Sasha. Okay. All right. We go to the next one, and number 11. I already told you. What's this? El Monte Gang. Not Jose Luis Benavides, but Salazar. The last name is Salazar. Okay. Actually, Salazar was murdered, in a place called the Silver Dollar Bar in Whittier Boulevard. Okay. During the 70s, and the riots there. Okay, let's take a look at El Monte Gang, number 11. Okay, El Monte Gang, has a lot to do with Lugo's trial, and now you need to tell me more about it. Okay, because again, El Monte has to do with this. Okay, again, and who were they? Okay, and again, you need to be thinking in terms of like, what's going on with these guys? Why do we have this? And it's just probably the best. It's one of the earlier and first spurs of white supremacists in California. And by the way, California does host a range of white supremacists today, like the American Neo-Nazi Party, like Aryan Nation, and they happen to be in places like Escondido, California. There's a lot of transplants from the Midwest to the south of Orange County and places like that, and it's kind of sad and rare and strange to see these spurs of white supremacism in the state, which is a far cry from the KKK in Mississippi. That we probably understand that, uh, uh, as history went on in Deep South, okay? But this is right here. This is California, okay? Um, we already talked a little bit about Murrieta and Vasquez. I think that Dustin mentioned the fact that, well, yeah, these guys are outlaws, but are they? Okay, and I think that you know, your opinions may change in terms of thinking that our most visible outlaw that we ever have in California was Joaquin Murrieta. Well, maybe he was not. Okay, all right. So that goes to number 12. Now we go to number 13. Okay, and I think that 13 was, you know, my examples right from the get-go. This was the one question that I gave you some examples in which I had some interesting aspects. Okay, number 14. What do you think a dual wage system is? Okay, and is it fair? Okay, all right. So I think that I think you're going to be looking right from the get-go, you know, the injustices. Exactly. You got it. So absolutely. Okay. And the last one is Modesta Avila, and Modesta Avila, it's a really sad case in California. I mean, this, you know, this lady had exactly. That's a very good comparison in there. Okay, Mexicans and Chinese. Okay, it's really cool. You know, it's very cool. Okay. Incidentally, when you're talking about a dual wage system, in most of this chapter, you've also seen this. Okay, and I want to use that term because it was legal. Okay, a Chinese or a Mexican couldn't testify against a white guy. That was legal. Okay, don't forget that. Okay, now the last one has to do with Modesta Avila, and I want you to really look at Modesta Avila. It's related to number 4 as well, because you know, we you know, much was said that, oh yeah, women could own land. Well, the fact that they could, the fact that they had, did it mean that that land was to be protected? Okay, and the answer was no. And the case of Modesta Avila, it's about this lady who was in the 20s. Okay, that may pretty much be, you know, the early 20s might be the age that some of you guys have. Okay, all right. Now the question here is, she did rebel against the railroad in San Juan Capistrano. Now you need to tell me so. Okay. Now once you know about their case, you're going to be thinking, this is crappy, man, because last week we talked about a gentleman by the name of Flores, okay, who was lynched in Santa Ana. Okay, all right. So now you need to look at Modesta Avila, and now you need to be thinking about what your take is. All right. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to be sending you this via announcements through TalentNet, and I'm just going to give you the same directions that more or less I gave you. All right. And you're going to have this till Wednesday at noon to complete it. All right. So it better be there before Wednesday at noon. Okay. And you know, think how you're going to do this so you don't you know, you don't get in trouble. I'm also going to I'm also going to go to turn it in, and I'm going to open up the window, because if you're done with this and you're good at this and you're a vampire and you like to stay up all night, then you can just go ahead and turn it in if that's what you choose to do. Okay, guys. Hopefully this was very helpful. Thank you very much for your, for your, for your input. I think that you got a lot out of tonight. And take it easy with this. Just one by one, and you'll be fine. Okay. All right. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you when I see you. See you next week, and hope everything's fine. Don't be drinking too much beer tonight. Think about the test first. Okay. You're very welcome, Sasha. Thank you all for being here tonight.